Okay, so last time we were talking about Princess Diaries 3, and I don't know about you, but I've been thinking about Queen Clarissa Rinaldi, like, all week.
Right.
But wow, this is different this time.
Yeah.
We are tackling this interview with Michael Shellenberger from the Joe Rogan Experience.
Yeah.
And this one goes in a lot of different directions.
It really does.
You know, Shellenberger from his writing on energy and the environment. But this conversation
Right.
goes from free speech and censorship to UFOs.
Yeah, it's wild.
Somewhere between the edge of being alive and feeling dead.
The thing I think is so interesting is that he seems to connect all these things together, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's this pattern of information control happening.
Yeah, and it's not like those topics don't seem like they would go together
No, not at all.
at all.
Like right away, he jumps into this whole thing with Elon Musk
Okay.
and censorship and what's going on in Brazil with X.
With X. Okay, so that's Twitter, basically, right?
Right, formerly Twitter.
Formerly Twitter, yeah.
Yeah, and I was kind of lost. Like, why is Brazil so worried about what's happening on X? You know,
Right.
what's the big deal?
Yeah.
So basically, it comes down to this group of people. I think he said like 12 people, maybe more, maybe less.
Okay.
But the Brazilian government wants to ban them from the platform
Mm.
because they're spreading misinformation.
Okay.
But Shellenberger, he sees this as part of this bigger trend
Mm-hmm.
of using that term, misinformation, to silence people,
Interesting.
even experts who, maybe have some different opinions.
Oh, so it's not just like
Right, crazy people on the internet.
the bots and trolls.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And he even uses this term I'd never heard before, counterpopulist.
Counter-populist.
Have you ever heard that?
I don't think so. What does that even mean?
So he says it's how, like, the institutions, the ones in power,
Okay.
censor the voices of people outside of that system.
Like the little guy.
Yeah. Basically, it's about controlling the narrative, even if it means, like, shutting down other points of view.
So they're in charge of the story.
Exactly. And he's saying this is happening everywhere, like governments, the media,
Yeah.
even scientific groups. Like, he brings up the American Academy of Pediatrics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like the people who are supposed to be,
I know, the
Those are-
experts, experts on kids.
on kids, yeah.
But he talks about how some of their recommendations, like on infant sleep positions or peanut allergies, ended up being wrong. Like, they actually had harmful consequences.
So, like, who can we trust?
That's the big question he's asking.
Right.
Like, if these organizations that we trust so much can get it wrong,
Yeah.
then who do we rely on for good information?
Right.
And he's not saying don't trust anybody,
Right.
but he's saying think for yourself,
Right. Question everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Don't just accept what you're told, even if it's coming from someone who seems like an authority.
Right.
Because what they're calling science or fact is sometimes just like the most popular opinion.
The most popular opinion.
Yeah. And it's important to be able to question that,
Okay.
So
we should have a healthy skepticism of authority.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you so far. But then it gets really interesting. He starts talking about drugs
Oh boy.
and legalization.
Here we go.
And let me tell you, he does not hold back.
He does not.
Yeah.
He wants us to be like really open and honest about drug policy.
Right.
Like really challenge what we think we know.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the way we deal with drugs now with prohibition,
Right.
it doesn't always work out the way we want it to.
And he would say it's like alcohol.
Right.
Like, we already have this very addictive substance.
Exactly. That's legal.
That's legal, and, we figured out ways to deal with it.
Right.
And he's saying maybe we need to look at other drugs in the same way.
So it's about giving people freedom to make their own choices,
Correct.
even if those choices might be risky.
Yeah, and taking responsibility for those choices.
Interesting. And it's like, this idea keeps coming up again and again.
Like with the experts with the drugs.
It's about personal freedom and responsibility.
And he doesn't shy away from anything.
No, it is not.
He even talks about, like, the decline of religion.
Yeah.
And the rise of what he calls substitute religions. Substitute religions? Like what? Give me an example.
He's talking about things like wokeness
Okay.
and climate change activism.
Interesting.
Like he's saying humans need something to believe in.
Mm-hmm.
And when traditional religion goes away, they just find new things to put their faith in.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense, I guess. But
Does that make sense?
I don't know if I'd call them religions. But I get what he's saying.
It's definitely a different way of looking at it.
It is. It is.
Yeah, like, is it really a religion? I don't know.
Right.
It's an interesting way to think about it.
Right.
But if you thought that was wild, this is where he goes full on X-Files.
Okay, here we go.
UFOs.
UFOs. All right. I mean, I'm down for a deep dive.
Yeah.
But this is where I was like, where is he going with this? But he's not just like, I don't know, some UFO guy.
Right.
He brings it back to that information control thing.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the same people controlling the story about elections
It's all connected.
or the pandemic are also in charge of, like, the UFO narrative.
Exactly. And he says the government has all these secrets
Right.
about UFOs that it's hard to even talk about.
Right, because how do you even know
Right.
what's true?
Like, are they covering stuff up?
And then there's that whistleblower,
Right.
the one who says he knows about a government program
No.
that, like, recovers crashed UFOs.
Yeah, that's straight out of a movie.
It's crazy, right?
But is it?
That's true. I mean,
Is it so hard to believe?
that the government might be hiding aliens from us? I mean, I don't know.
He says this isn't the first time
Right.
that people have said that the government is hiding this stuff.
And he mentions that book
Yeah.
about UFOs.
The one by the guy who was involved in the Hunter Biden laptop thing.
The Hunter Biden laptop? Wait, really? It's like, what are the chances? Everything is connected.
Right.
But okay, even if the government is hiding something huge,
Yeah.
why?
Why so secretive?
Yeah, like, what's the big deal?
He says maybe they're worried about people freaking out.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine if everyone found out we weren't alone.
Like mass panic in the streets.
Yeah, it's total chaos.
Like an Orson Welles War of the Worlds situation.
Exactly. Everyone loses their minds.
But then he brings up another possibility.
Okay.
And this one's even crazier.
What's that?
Maybe they don't want to give up control
Control of what?
of the narrative.
Okay.
Like, they don't want to tell us what's really going on.
So we're not even talking about aliens anymore?
Right.
We're talking about, like, who gets to decide what's real.
Like, they're controlling reality.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much to think about. But it makes you wonder,
Mhm.
like, how do we even get to the truth about this stuff?
Right.
Or anything, for that matter.
Like, how do we know what's real anymore?
It's a good question, and Shellenberger, he thinks whistleblower protections are a big part of it.
Okay.
Like, people who know about this stuff need to be able to talk about it.
Without getting in trouble.
Exactly, without being afraid.
Yeah.
And he even says that Congress should think about, like, amnesty,
Amnesty. So, like, forgive people who
Yeah.
broke the law
basically, yeah.
just to get the truth out there. That's intense.
It's a big ask.
It is a big ask. But I guess if we're talking about, like, you know,
Yeah.
aliens and stuff,
Right.
maybe gotta, you know,
Go big or go home.
go big or go home, exactly. But okay, so we've talked about censorship
Mm-hmm.
and UFOs and, like,
Right.
what's real and what's not.
Right, like, it's a lot.
It's a lot. But there's this other thing he says
Okay.
that I think brings it all together.
Yeah, there's a right and listen.
He calls it a pathocracy.
A pathocracy.
I know, right?
Sounds intense.
Like, what even is that?
Okay, so basically he's saying that the institutions that are supposed to be helping us, the ones that are supposed to be, like, solving problems,
Right.
sometimes they're the ones actually making things worse.
What, like the cure is worse than the disease?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And I've heard of that happening with, like, medicine.
Right.
You go to the hospital for one thing,
Right.
and then you end up getting sicker from something else.
Exactly. It's called iatrogenesis.
Iatrogenesis. See, I should have paid more attention in school.
But yeah, he's saying the same thing can happen with, like, the government
Okay.
or the media.
Like they're giving us the wrong treatment.
Exactly. Like, take censorship, for example.
Okay.
He's saying that when they try to control the narrative
Right.
and, like, shut down certain viewpoints,
Mm-hmm.
it can actually make people more distrustful
Oh, okay.
and more likely to believe, like, really extreme stuff.
So it's like they're trying to stop misinformation,
Right.
but they're accidentally making it worse.
Exactly. It's like they're creating the very problem they're trying to solve.
Wow. So what's the solution?
Well, he doesn't really give, like, a step-by-step plan.
Okay.
But he's basically saying that open debate, even about stuff that makes us uncomfortable,
Right?
that's the best way to get to the truth.
So we need to be able to talk about these things.
Yeah, even the stuff that's hard to talk about.
Right. Otherwise, it's just going to fester.
Exactly, like sunlight is the best disinfectant.
I like that. So this whole interview, it's like he's not giving us answers.
Right.
He's giving us questions.
It's making us think,
Yeah, and he's saying that we need to be skeptical
Hmm.
of everyone.
especially people in power.
Right. Like, don't just take their word for it.
Think for yourself.
Do your own research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And be open to the possibility that you might be wrong.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is.
But it's so important.
It is, because none of us have all the answers.
Right. And that's okay.
Exactly.
That's how we learn and grow.
That's how we make the world a better place.
Okay, so wow. We went from Princess Diaries to like
I know, right?
the fate of humanity.
It's a wild ride.
It is a wild ride, but that's what we do here.
Deep dives only.
Deep dives only, baby. We want to hear what you think. Did any of this resonate with you? What are your big takeaways? Let us know in the comments, and maybe we'll talk about it on the next deep dive.